because that is what this time teaches us. There is a pause and there is a rest. We are in the space before creation. And our human lives in Western culture, I know, are the opposite of this. They are the opposite. They are the opposite of acknowledging that this time is for pause and rest. And I wish I could fix that. I wish I could change that for all of us, but I can't. And so you have to change it for you, and I have to change it for me. Each of us has to decide that we take one step, that we make some progress, that we give ourselves permission to be the natural, earthly, and divine spiritual beings that we are. We have to decide that we call back our energy. We are sovereign, that we first belong to ourselves, and that this is a time to call back all that belongs to you. Welcome to the Intrepid Soul podcast, where we explore what it takes to build a human life that's congruent with your soul. I'm Katie Benway, a mystic, teacher, and author, here to walk with you through the wilds of the human experience as we get to know and get closer to the soul. Let's get curious, courageous, and conscious together. Hello, welcome back to the Intrepid Soul podcast. I'm really happy to have you here today. I am recording this episode on a bitter cold winter day. I'm curled up at my office with hot tea, and I'm still cold. But it's sort of perfect because today I want to talk to you about sovereignty, about wintering, about embracing this period of time in a way that might feel counterintuitive to us here in Western, busy, frantic culture. And I want to also tell you about the sovereignty ceremony, which I've held every year for the last 4 years. We are doing it again on Sunday, December 28th, 2025. I'll tell you about that later, but it's a really lovely ceremony. And I want to tell you about the genesis of it. I want to tell you about why it means so much to me and why I think it's so meaningful for those who participate. And even if you don't end up participating in the ceremony, I hope this conversation today inspires you to accept nature's invitation to rest, to pause, to embrace the darkness, the cold, the unknown. I hope that today's conversation gives you a different perspective and permission to step out of the utter insanity that our culture is and back into alignment with nature. So let's start with this time of year, this winter solstice, end of the Gregorian calendar time of year. And for many, many years, I've accompanied thousands of people through life. And I've always noticed that this time of year brings up huge amounts of stress, grief, emotional triggers, family dynamics, old traumas, loss, longing. It's a tough time of year. And why is it a tough time of year? Because there's all this pressure to celebrate holidays and be joyful. There's also, I think, the inherent trigger in it getting dark and cold. I think that for a lot of us, when it gets dark outside and days get shorter, our natural bodily and spirit instincts are to slow down, are to rest, but that bumps up against our conditioning to not rest, to keep going, to fill our days, to be productive, to dive into holidays and cook and buy and consume and stress. There's so much about our conditioning in our Western culture that is utterly in direct opposition to what nature tells us to do, guides us to do, invites us to do. You and I are of nature. We are nature. We are earthly nature. We are divine nature. We are both earth and stardust. We are both dirt and divine material. And so naturally, when we come into this end of year, cold, dark period, our bodies and our spirits know that we're meant to rest. We are meant to pause. We are meant to slow down. We are meant to do what nature does. Nature lets go of its production, of its blooming and growing, and it takes a rest. And that instinct in our bodies and our spirits is sacred, and it's true, and it's right. And it thrusts us into a paradox. Because for most of us, we are not living in accordance with nature. We're not living in accordance with our bodies or spirits. Not really. Our lives are living in accordance with Western capitalistic, there's never enough, lack and fear conditioning. We are living lives that are opposite of our natural, earthly, and divine nature. And so I'd like you to consider that in this season, there is an internal quandary, a collision of forces. The natural and spiritual and delicate but strong ones, and the suppressive and oppressive conditioning forces. The world we live in versus how our heart and soul, bodies and spirits want to operate. And so if even naming this or talking about it brings up stress in you, take a breath and honor that. Because I feel it. Talking about it and naming it creates dissonance and stress in my body. I feel it in the center of my body and in my chest, like as a restlessness. I don't want it to be this way. And yet I live in this world. And I have bills to pay and kids to take care of, and an 11-year-old who I think still believes in Santa. And so I've got to jump through those hoops. And I've got a shitload of family dynamics that come traipsing up this time of year. Oh, and some old grief. And I have to work and I have to keep going. And oh my God, the roads are so clogged. And yet all I want to do is rest. All I want to do is clear my calendar and read and journal and reflect and rest. And I want to bake and I want to spend time with my kids. And so as I tell you about this, I want you to know that I don't have this figured out, not by a long shot, because I'm a human being too, and I live in this world and I have bills to pay too. I don't have it figured out. But every year, every season, I try to step toward what I know with a little bit more bravery and courage. I try to let go of something or a pattern or a requirement or an old habit or tradition that I know is not right for me and keeps me beholden to forces and mandates that are outside of me. Every season, I ask myself, where do I abandon myself and how can I stop doing that and take a step toward myself? It's harder to do it in one fell swoop. And so I try a little bit each season. And I am finding myself doing that more this season. And so let's honor that paradox, the tension in our bodies, the feeling of wanting to desperately align with our natural, spiritual, bodily instincts and the way that our lives refuse to let us do that. And let's honor how hard it is to fix it, to solve that. For most of us, we can't solve it quickly. So let's honor it. Let's breathe. And then I want to tell you about one of my responses to this. Over the years, I've seen up close and personal the way that these paradoxes of how we truly want to be and exist, and then how we're forced to exist, how they cause us suffering, how they set people back. how it makes people sick and ill, how it grieves them, how it builds up a trauma. And so one of my responses was to create the sovereignty ceremony. And I want to tell you about it and invite you to it, but mostly I want to tell you about it. Sovereignty, energetic and spiritual sovereignty, is belonging to oneself. I belong first to myself. You belong first to yourself. And yet, you know and I know that we live in a world, in family systems, in relationships, where we are constantly giving ourselves away. Most of us are entrenched in really codependent dynamics. And we control other people or try to please other people or abandon ourselves to make them happy or whatever. Most of us don't care for ourselves deeply because we're really busy trying to control what's happening around us. I also think that we collectively really struggle with sitting with our own intense emotions, our own existential crises. And I don't think that we generally have enough emotional and spiritual stamina to really sit with what's raw within us. And so we just go outside of ourselves. We busy ourselves. We do other things. We try to control other people. And at the end of the calendar year, during this winter solstice, dark, quiet, restful period, it seems really natural to me to call our energy back, to pause and acknowledge the deep responsibility that each of us has to ourselves, to caring for ourselves, but also to taking responsibility for our energy. And so the sovereignty ceremony, I love doing at the end of every calendar year because it's a beautiful way to pause and just say, where have I given away my energy? Where has my energy been taken from me without me realizing it? Where have I tried to influence or control other people or other outcomes, and I have spent too much of my energy? Where have I been attached to outcomes that are not mine to create or dictate? Where have I been depleted by relationships, families, work, struggles, stress, guilt, grief? Where have I leaked energy? And you don't have to have all the answers to this. It's the beautiful thing about the sovereignty ceremony. We do this really gentle yet powerful calling back of energy that we have wittingly given away and unwittingly given away. We call back energy that's been taken from us, that has leaked. We call back energy that we know is misplaced. And this is a spiritual and emotional maturity because you are incredibly powerful. I am incredibly powerful. And most of us are spending our energy without paying a lot of attention. And when we pause to take responsibility for our energy, for our psychic traffic, for our intentions, for our life force, we are doing a service to the collective, to the all, and we are doing a service to ourselves. The sovereignty exercise helps us remember that you and I belong first to ourselves. And your body and my body, they're talking to us. Your spirit and my spirit, they're talking to us. And when we're sending energy out, instead of paying attention to that energy that's coursing through our bodies, our beings, we're missing the messages. We're missing the signals. Your body is communicating to you every moment of the day. Your spirit is communicating to you all the time. It is up to us to develop the emotional maturity, strength, and stamina, the spiritual maturity, strength, and stamina to stop and listen. to register the nudge, the pain, the tightening in the chest, the intuitive hit, to stop and thank our body and our spirit for talking to us, to be brave enough to listen, even and especially when it provides information that is scary or inconvenient, information that feels threatening. When we call back our energy, we call back the resources that naturally belong to us, our natural connection to body and spirit. And it's loving, it's self-loving, and it's also deeply personal and responsible. I think that sovereignty is such an apt topic for this time of year. And I think about what I see, what I observe in nature, the way that the leaves fall off of the trees. And that tells me that the trees stop sending nutrients out to its branches and leaves just for the season. It tells me that perhaps the trees and the plants pull their nutrients back into their core to nourish and sustain deep in their core. Nature is not sending out life force, energy, blooming, blossoming, birthing right now. It's withdrawing and going inward. And I imagine when I think of the tree during this period, I imagine the tree's life force coming into the trunk and descending into the roots and hanging out in the soil, in the dark, womb-like soil, the place where creation lives and is not yet. I imagine that during this period, if I were to be like the tree, I would stop forcing myself to produce more. I would stop overcommitting myself. I would not do the things that are not immediately necessary. I would take time to pull my energy back through my body. I imagine pulling it through my fingertips, through my mouth and down through my voice, through the top of my head, through my feet, breathing in through my lungs. I would pull my energy in, and I would send my energy. I would collect my energy in my heart, in my bloodstream, in my bones, in the center of my body. And I would notice that energy in its most concentrated, pure form, full of life, full of nutrients and sustenance and wisdom. And I would know that as I sit here in this place, I might notice things that cause me pain. I might feel emotions that are hard. I might feel sadness or longing or wistfulness. And I would breathe and know that that's okay. Those emotions are informing me. I might notice as I sit with this pool of concentrated energy just how depleted I am, how exhausted by this world I am, this world that takes me out of alignment with my true nature. I'll notice that though I believe most in my spiritual practice, it at times feels like such a battle to get there. I want so much to be in my spiritual practice more than I am, and yet I have all of these obligations. And so I long and I'm wistful and I wish and I hope. And as I feel these emotions, they're hard and they're informative. They tell me what I really believe in and what I really want and who I really am. They show me what's important to me. And they remind me that if I die tomorrow, there are a handful of things that are important to me that I believe in and nothing else is. And that inspires me to rearrange my life. When I draw this energy in, I'm reminded of rest and stillness. And there are places in my body where that doesn't feel good, and there are places in my body where it feels desperately relief-giving. And so I sit with that paradox. And as I sit, I intend to grow my ability to rest, my ability to tolerate stillness, my ability to tolerate the unknown, because that is what this time teaches us. There is a pause and there is a rest. We are in the space before creation. And our human lives in Western culture, I know, are the opposite of this. They are the opposite. They are the opposite of acknowledging that this time is for pause and rest. And I wish I could fix that. I wish I could change that for all of us, but I can't. And so you have to change it for you, and I have to change it for me. Each of us has to decide that we take one step, that we make some progress, that we give ourselves permission to be the natural, earthly, and divine spiritual beings that we are. We have to decide that we call back our energy. We are sovereign, that we first belong to ourselves, and that this is a time to call back all that belongs to you, to take note, to sort through, to lay down what doesn't belong, to plant seeds of what does, to notice what gives you life, to notice what depletes it. And it's not a time to set rigorous and onerous goals and resolutions. It's a time to gently plant intentional seeds. What do you want this next season to bring? How do you want to live your life? How do you want to treat yourself? How do you want to engage with people that you love? How do you want to help your community? Where are you drained? Where is a pattern or a habit untenable? And can you find the courage to not only admit that to yourself, but to consider a different way, even if it upsets other people and costs you belonging and inclusion? Can you journal and create art? Listen to music, create music? Can you lean into reflection and creativity as a way to be intimate with yourself, to communicate with your body and your spirit? Can you become a safer place for your body to talk to you and your spirit to talk to you? This whole season is invitation. It's invitation to rest and to stop and pause. It's invitation to be courageous in going against all of the pressure and all of the conditioning that compels us to leave our bodies and our spirits behind and go perform. This is a season that invites us to take one step toward alignment, and then, if you can, one more. You are sovereign. You first belong to yourself. You are responsible for your energy, and you are your own energetic leader. Your body wants you to be the leader that you are. Your spirit wants you to be the leader that you are. Your body wants to support you, and the unseen world wants to support you when you say, here I am, I'm listening. I'm going to put alignment into action. I'm going to nourish myself so that when it's time, I can nourish the outcomes, the people, the community, the relationships, the values that align with me. Let's be the tree. Let's acknowledge that it's time. This is the season to pull in our resources, our energy, and to reflect, to acknowledge and be responsible, and to treat this period as the sacred space of reflection and transition that it is. So thanks for being with me today. If you'd like to join me for the sovereignty ceremony, we're having that on Sunday, December 28th, 2025 at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm live during that time leading the ceremony, and then it's available on replay. And so this all happens at the Intrepid Soul Collective. That is my community over on Patreon. And to join, you simply download the Patreon app on your device, look for either my name, Katie Benway, or the Intrepid Soul Collective. You'll join for a small monthly fee, and that will give you access to the Zoom link to our live sovereignty ceremony. And if you can't be live, you'll be able to get the replay. And also in the collective are tons of resources. I have a winter solstice ceremony in there for you, guided meditations, voice notes, live calls with me, all kinds of support and resources there when you need it. There's no pressure. This isn't homework. It's just there when you need it. And so I invite you to join me, not only in the collective, but especially at the sovereignty ceremony. Let's take a step away from the intensity of a world that asks us to abandon our spiritual and natural reality. I would love for you to join me in the ceremony and join other people who are embracing their nature, their spirit. It's so powerful when we come together in a group. Of course, it's powerful for you individually, but the power of the group when we all do this together, it's beautiful and it's grounding and it's compelling and it's expansive. And it feels so good to join with other people who think like you and who are aligned like you and want something similar. So come be with us, come be with me. Let's acknowledge our spiritual nature, our energetic and psychic nature. Let's acknowledge that we are nature. And let's tend to ourselves in the most exquisitely responsible, gentle way. All right. All love. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining me here on the Intrepid Soul podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation and the work of your soul, join me over on Patreon at the Intrepid Soul Collective. There you'll find tons of resources and support connected to the conversations we have here to help you make your soul work practical and embodied. There are live sessions with me, bonus Q&As where you can go deeper with me and my guests, companion guided meditations and ceremonies, and so much more. Because we can't just talk about it, we've got to become it. Check out the show notes for details and links, and hit follow on this podcast. It'll keep new episodes at the top of your feed, and it helps me build the Intrepid Soul community. Until next time, take good care of yourself and your soul.